Breaking tonight, all 5 former presidents appearing together to benefit victims of this year's devastating hurricanes. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Jeanine Pirro, live from Los Angeles tonight. Thanks for being with us. Counselor to the President, Kellyanne Conway, is coming up. But first, a live look inside Reed Arena at Texas A&M University in College Station, Texas. The Deep from the Heart One America Appeal concert is taking place right now for hurricane relief, and we are just a few minutes away from hearing from President Trump, as well as live addresses from former Presidents Carter, Clinton, Obama, and Bush. But first, my opening statement. Now, Obama and the Clintons sold us out, our uranium, and with it, the security of our nation. Follow me. It's 2008. The Russians frantic, desperate to buy uranium, the key ingredient to a nuclear weapon. The Obama administration more than willing to accommodate. In fact, the whole upper tier of the Obama administration, those paragons of globalist virtue, approved the deal. But this week, we find out that as far back as 2009, the FBI and the Department of Justice had an active, large-scale criminal investigation into Russia and Kremlin-connected individuals scheming to access America's uranium, ranging from bribery, money laundering, and kickback schemes. An FBI informant, an American businessman, was wired and provided unmistakable evidence. Now, I told you a year ago that Bill and Hillary were cashing in on her State Department job with their so-called charitable foundation. Instead, it was an international money laundering operation, a veritable pay-to-play slush fund funded not only by foreign countries, but by companies and individuals involved in this particular Uranium One scheme, to the tune of $145 million. And guess what? The Clinton Foundation failed to disclose major contributions from entities involved in this Uranium One deal, violating not only Hillary's promises to the Obama White House and the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, but evidencing her consciousness of guilt. So why is this important? Folks, context is everything. The backdrop of the sale of 20% of America's uranium to the Russians was Putin's ongoing racketeering enterprise that the Obama inner circle knew about, and the FBI and our Department of Justice was actually monitoring and investigating, and yet subsequently allowed the transfer to Russia. You know the players. Follow the names. The Department of Justice, headed by Eric Holder, in charge not only of this investigation, but also on the small committee that approved the sale to Russia. The case itself handled by Rod Rosenstein. You know him, the same man who told Jeff Sessions to recuse himself, get out of the way of the Russia investigation so that Rosenstein could appoint Bob Mueller to try to connect Trump to Russia. And if that isn't the irony of all ironies. And the head of the FBI at the time, Bob Mueller, the man now appointed special counsel to connect Donald Trump to Russia. And the FBI agent handling the case, Andrew McCabe. He's the man who was handling the email investigation of Hillary. Now, you may remember his wife got $675,000 from Clinton pal Terry McAuliffe, also connected to the Clinton Foundation, because she ran with Hillary in 2016. Now, she lost, but under Virginia law, she can keep whatever cash was left from that oh-so-generous contribution. Now, at the time of the approval of the transfer of our uranium to Russia, Republicans in Congress objected on the basis of our national security. They worried that Russia helped Iran build its nuclear reactor and that the takeover of United States nuclear resources by a Russian government-owned agency would be against our national security interests. Why does this all matter? At the time that the Obama administration green-lighted this sale, Republicans in Congress objected, and they didn't even know about the criminality and the money laundering. So you asked yourself, what happened to that criminal case? The criminal case was plea bargained to a lesser crime on Labor Day weekend. The sentence, a slap on the wrist, meted out at Christmas time with none of the bells and whistles that normally accompany an international racketeering case. The informant now, who brought the case to the FBI's attention, he is still gagged by Eric Holder and then Loretta Lynch via that non-disclosure agreement where the sanction is a criminal penalty. In other words, he is barred from talking. Neither his attorney, Victoria Tensing, nor I, with a combination of 80 years of law enforcement experience, have ever heard of such a thing. But think about it, folks. It makes lots of sense. The country cannot know what Obama, Mueller, Holder, McCabe, and Rosenstein knew, and that is the sale of our uranium and the cash that went to the Clintons and their foundation, accompanied by a racketeering operation that was literally allowed to disappear before our eyes. Now Congress wants to hear from this informant, and there are three things that must happen. Number one, Jeff Sessions needs to immediately release the informant from the non-disclosure agreement. Number two, Andrew McCabe needs to be fired as number two in the FBI. And number three, Robert Mueller, instead of heading an investigation into determining whether Donald Trump colluded with Russia, should be the target of an investigation for his role in covering up the extortion scheme that allowed Russia to access America's uranium. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. Hashtag Judge Jeanine. And remember, we're about to hear from former presidents of the United States at the Hurricane Relief Concert in College Station. This is happening moment to moment, folks. But first, let's talk with my political panel radio show hosts, Larry Elder and Ethan Bierman. They're here with me now, right here in Los Angeles. All right, guys. So did you know that the transfer of our uranium, 20% of our uranium, Ethan, was in the context of this huge investigation that ended up in a conviction? Did you know that?
I didn't know that part of it until just in the last 24 hours or so. What's interesting, I mean, it was a beautiful opening statement, Your Honor.
Oh, thank you.
But there are a couple of key facts that we're missing here. First off, uranium is not allowed to be exported. So
but
Russia,
according to the New York Times, it's being exported.
But then that's a separate investigation. Why is it being exported without proper licenses? That's something the Trump administration has control over.
No. It was exported according to the New York Times in 2015. So I guess Obama wasn't watching either. There's a shock, too.
And so people, if laws are broken, and you and I are in total agreement on this, if laws are broken, people need to be held to account. We had 9 federal agencies that were responsible for approving the Uranium One deal.
Yeah, they were all part of the Obama cabal.
Sure, but you also know how huge that bureaucracy is and the number of people that are involved in those decisions.
Yeah, Eric Holder, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton,
and the Administrative Procedures Act controls how that actually functions in Washington and how rules are done and deals are made.
So you think it was a clean deal?
I don't necessarily know that it was a clean deal, but there are a lot of parties involved, so just to point a finger at 1 or 2 people, that seems very suspect with the size of that
I pointed you to 3 already, and you know what's amazing? The same people involved in that criminal investigation that they hid are the people who are trying to connect Trump to Russia, which after 1 year, nobody can find any evidence. Larry Elder, hit it.
Well, Judge, Ethan is right in that it's unclear whether or not the 9 or so entities that are involved in approving this deal were aware of this FBI probe.
Well, we know that Obama was, Holder was, Clinton was. They were all involved.
Unclear.
No.
Around the same time of all this happening.
No.
Hold on,
Holder
Judge.
was in the Justice Department. It was his case.
Around the same time of all this, you have Bill Clinton getting $500,000 to give a speech connected to Russian interests. You have all this money coming into the Clinton Foundation. It smells. But whether or not she had direct knowledge that there was a ongoing FBI probe, we don't know that yet. Ethan's right about that part. But the context, Judge, is this. Remember when Obama came in, first thing he did was throw the checks and the polls under the bus after George W. Bush had negotiated a missile defense deal for them, because he wanted to curry favor with the Russians, because he wanted the Russian support for doing this cockamamie Iran deal. This is all about how the Obama administration was soft on Russia. Fast forward, you have all these Democrats now yelling and screaming about how Donald Trump is soft on Putin. It's just so hypocritical. It's incredible.
Well, go ahead.
It's interesting because Larry and I have some odd agreements here. I've been hard on the whole Russia thing for both the Obama administration and the Trump administration. The Russians are not our friends, and so anybody who wants
the deal never should have gone through, irrespective of the FBI probe going on at the same time. It never should have gone through. Ethan agrees, and I agree on that.
Okay, but you realize that two people knew: the head of the FBI, the head of the Justice Department,
correct,
the president. When you have an international money laundering operation, and subsequent to it, you've got a plea deal that is unheard of, that is then sold on a weekend where no one is going to hear about it, when there would be bells and whistles in violation of Justice Department rules, where they gag the one person who could tell America about it with a criminal sanction. Come on, guys.
National security interest is why you would do that NDA.
Oh, come on. Do you really believe that national security? What do you know about criminal prosecution? They violated their own Justice Department guidelines.
The deal never should have gone through, irrespective of this case going on right now with the FBI. Add that to it, it makes it even more outrageous. And you're absolutely right. If Clinton knew about the FBI probe and still approved it, it's outrageous. It's pay to play.
It was pay to play before this.
Huh.
Are you kidding, Larry?
Whether or not a direct payment meant that she was going to approve the deal.
What about the fact
a whole
that
different question.
the Clinton Foundation,
Judge, I'm not defending her. I'm just saying when you make an argument that I got something to do something, you have to prove it.
Yeah,
and whether or not she was going to do it anyway. What about the other agencies? What about the other agencies that approved it? Did they get money as well directly?
The other agencies were national security. They were all appointees of Barack Obama. Barack Obama is the one who was aware that Russia was infiltrating and said nothing, because he said he didn't want to make it look like he was impacting the election.
The deal never should have gone through, but whether or not they were aware, the 8 or 9 agencies were aware that the FBI probe was going on, we still don't know. That is what ought to be investigated. If we find out that they knew that and still approved it, it's even more outrageous.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Eric Holder was on the committee, and he approved it. Should he be questioned before Congress?
Absolutely.
Okay. And Bob Mueller is now trying to find out desperately whether or not Donald Trump, after 1 year, Congress has found not one iota of evidence. Mueller is trying to figure out whether or not there was any connection between Russia and Trump. He was investigating. He knew everything that was going on with Russia. Should he be investigating Donald Trump?
Absolutely. And he also should be investigating the Clinton Foundation and Hillary and Bill Clinton.
He was investigating the case, and now we've got him do. Okay. All right. I got to take it back. Larry Elder, Ethan Berman, lot happening right now. Kellyanne Conway still ahead. And next, we'll listen live as a former president, sorry guys, addresses this historic concert. We'll also hear from President Trump, who just addressed the concert on tape. Live coverage on Justice returns in just a moment. Hey, you know what? It was. Back live on Justice with continuing coverage of the Deep from the Heart One America Appeal concert, live from College Station, Texas. Former presidents Carter, Clinton, Obama, and George W. Bush about to address the crowd at this hurricane relief concert. Let's listen in.
Out in Georgia also. Well, it's a great pleasure for me to be here with the other presidents to carry out this big project. I've just enjoyed seeing what the Points of Light does for the country. I've seen that for many years. I'd like to remind people that Habitat for Humanity is located in Georgia. My wife and I have worked with Habitat now for 36 years, at least 1 week each year. And America is known for volunteer work. In fact, we're way ahead of any other nation. Last year, there were 67 million Americans who volunteered to help other people in America. And that came to 8 billion hours of work worth $184 billion. So that's what volunteers did last year. And I hope this year they're going to do a lot more. That's about 1 out of 5 of the total population of America. We want to see what the other 4/5 do. Habitat has agreed to build 6,000 houses in the devastated area. And to do this, all of us Habitat volunteers will raise $100 million. And we've already raised $20 million, so we got a long way to go. This is a wonderful project, and if you want to contribute, obviously, to One America, that's fine. If you want to contribute to Habitat, you can remember this: 1-800-HABITAT, HABITAT. So let's all work together. Let's all work together and make America still a greater volunteer nation. Thank you very much.
When President George H.W. Bush was trying to persuade the Congress to pass one of his noblest endeavors, the Americans with Disabilities Act, he said, "Our problems are great, but the heart of America is greater." That's what we're here to celebrate. We were all citizens, even us, before we were politicians. And after our time was up, we became citizens again. We've been volunteering since before our Constitution, when Benjamin Franklin organized the first volunteer fire department in Philadelphia. Our neighbors, our friends, have gotten an enormous amount of sweat equity from all these volunteers and a lot of money. But make no mistake about it, these were grievous storms back to back. There is still work to be done in Texas and in Florida, and our friends in Puerto Rico and the American Virgin Islands have only begun to dig their way out of what could be still a calamitous disaster, but can be a new beginning if we just do what we ought to do and prove that the heart of America, without regard to race or religion or political party, is greater than our problems.
Hi to Texas. Yeah. So, all of us on this stage here tonight could not be prouder of the response of Americans when they see their neighbors and they see their friends, they see strangers in need. Americans step up. And as heartbreaking as the tragedies that took place here in Texas and in Florida, in Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands have been, what we've also seen is the spirit of America at its best. When ordinary people step up and do extraordinary things. The One America appeal is part of that process. And I want to thank President George W. Bush, and most of all, an outstanding American, somebody who has always shown grace and character and courage and served America nobly throughout the years, President George H.W. Bush. We are so proud to be with him today. He sets an example for all of us. as does First Lady Barbara Bush. And that spirit of voluntarism, that spirit that says we're all in this together, that in dire times ignores all the differences that we had before, that spirit is exemplified by the 5 Points of Light recipients whose stories you just saw on the screen and who are here tonight. So it is my great pleasure to bring these outstanding Americans to the stage so that you can acknowledge the extraordinary work that they have done, and I hope everybody who's watching is inspired by the work that they've done.
Former President George W. Bush, the 4th former president, still to speak tonight at the Hurricane Relief Concert in College Station, Texas. But you just saw the rest of them all here live on Justice. Joining me now from the nation's capital is counselor to the 45th president, Kellyanne Conway. Good evening, Kellyanne.
Hi, Jeanine.
All right. Now, I understand that President Trump has already tape recorded his comments to the nation. He couldn't be there tonight. And we've already, in fact, seen President Trump in Texas, in Florida, as well as in Puerto Rico. This is, however, a rare moment of unity for so many presidents. And I'll tell you this, I think that America is certainly proud of all of these presidents and from so many different decades, actually, and from the different parties together, joining together for all of us in one important cause.
It's an extraordinary moment, no doubt, Jeanine, and we're very happy to see the 5 living former presidents on the stage there for a wonderful cause, to help and continue to help our brothers and sisters in need in these states and these islands being affected by the hurricanes. As President Trump has said many times, recovery and rebuilding will last many, many months, if not years or longer. And our government is there on the ground. You know, FEMA has been remarkable. All really the cabinet agencies that have direct responsibility for recovery and rebuilding. If you look at the statistics alone, it's extraordinary how active they are. I've talked to some of the cabinet secretaries directly, and some of them anticipate that their folks will be there for many months or years to come. So we know it's a long road ahead of us. I think if the country turns on and sees a more, quote, cultural event, in other words, a fundraising event, and shows, quote, political figures, the 5 former presidents involved, and of course the taped remarks by our current president, Donald Trump, who's been very active in all of these places on the ground, along with his cabinet, pledging to people that he will continue to be there for them, as has the vice president. It's really a remarkable moment. We don't get to feel this comedy, C-O-M-I-T-Y, very often.
Right. Right. And it is, in fact, a great feeling. And, you know, Americans are the most generous people in the world. Right. I mean, we actually have that gold star. I mean, for all of the, all of the criticism we may get as, you know, we're not American enough, we're not charitable enough, we're not this enough. I mean, I think Americans need to be given credit and recognized and given the kudos that they deserve for their generosity on so many levels. But
yes, and
now
Jeanine, I do want to tell you, though, when tragedy strikes, you do really see the best of Americans. I think right after the hurricanes, I was on TV, perhaps even with you, saying things very similar to what President Obama said tonight, actually, which is that when you see strangers helping strangers and neighbors helping neighbors, but even when there are tragedies like Las Vegas, when you saw all those people loading people into their trucks.
I'm going to have to interrupt, Kellyanne. President George Bush is speaking now. We'll be right back with you.
39, 42, and 44 to one of the finest universities in the United States. I, too, am here to urge you to give to this fine fund, and I want to thank all the volunteers, but I'm here for another reason. I speak for the folks right here when I say we really admire and love George H.W. Bush.
recipients, and to our 5 very gracious...
What an event in College Station, Texas tonight. We're going to come right back with Kellyanne in a moment. Welcome back to Justice. We've been watching a beautiful concert from College Station, Texas, and we'll hear from President Trump in a few moments. But first, we're going to go back to Kellyanne Conway, counselor to the president. Thanks for staying with us, Kellyanne. All right,
Absolutely.
Now let's get to some of the serious stuff. We were talking about Uranium One, and we know that the Clintons benefited financially through the foundation. But what we didn't know until this week was that there was an ongoing federal active criminal investigation where an American businessman was wired up. Eric Holder, the Department of Justice, Bob Mueller, the head of the FBI, Andrew McCabe in the FBI, handling the Clinton email case, also aware of this, and Rod Rosenstein, the same guy who made Jeff Sessions get out of the way and who appointed his friend Mueller on the case as well. Now, all these guys aware of this corruption and scandal by Russia say nothing, and we sell our uranium to Russia. The main witness now on lockdown, should Jeff Sessions unleash this main witness from the non-disclosure agreement?
Well, Jeanine, you know I can't answer that question for you as counselor to the president, but I will tell you, practically speaking, this one is very easy for America to understand. Just close your eyes and imagine that every time Clinton or Obama's names are in this equation, you had the word Trump. Imagine what an uproar it would be from a media who's largely ignoring the story and largely ignored it and criticized those of us talking about it a year ago during the campaign. This is easy. You can connect a straight line. Bill Clinton's getting $500,000, a cool $500,000 check to give a speech over in Russia. The Hill reported this week that former President Bill Clinton, requested from State Department, really checked in with him and asked if it was okay, tried to get clearance to meet with some officials over there. And then he doesn't get an answer for a couple weeks, but voila, 20% of U.S. uranium rights go to a Russian company, a Russian interest. This is the kind of thing that bothers people about the swamp and about politicians and people who leave the swamp. And I think it frankly answers the question why people found Hillary Clinton to be not honest and not trustworthy. The number one question I got about this time in the campaign last year was, will Donald Trump, when will he accept the election results? He did accept the election results. And then after he won, I got the question 6 ways to Sunday every day, will he prosecute Hillary Clinton over these emails? But it turns out that since then, we've had this huge Russia investigation, basically has consumed taxpayer dollars in the entire 2017 year. And it's been about the wrong presidential candidate. It's been about the wrong players. People want to find a Russian investigation.
But not only that, the thing that the irony here is that the very people who hid from the American public the corruption that was going on and the money laundering that was going on by Russia to access our uranium are the people who are now investigating Donald Trump to try to make a connection between him and Russia. It is backwards. And you know what? The Republicans in Congress who are being made a fool of by being part of these congressional committees where after 1 year there's not one iota of evidence, and they sit there and they're being played by the Democrats because they continue to be part of these ridiculous congressional hearings where after a year there is no evidence, nothing. And they hear about this. Go ahead.
And the president has weighed in on that many times. He has said it's a hoax. There's nothing there. I've called it the collusion delusion. And frankly, you don't need to look about collusion or whether the election was stolen when you know that uranium rights were transferred after money was exchanged. And look, I can't comment on certain things and I won't. But the fact is that on this one, the president, it turns out he's right yet again. He's way ahead of everyone on practically every issue out there, way out in front. He's been warning everybody for a year. And I just want to tell all those people on the networks and the cable stations who have all these fancy graphics that say Russia, 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 you can dust them off again because I've noticed, curiously, you've been awfully quiet about it lately. But you can dust off Russia, 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 and apply it to this, because people have a right to know what really happened and why. The Americans, this is exactly what they hate about people in power, and really them not being able to peek around the corner and get some kind of transparency and clarity about what goes on.
But, you know, as much as Americans are disgusted by pay to play and people going into Congress, you know, of mediocre means and coming out multimillionaires, when our national security is at stake, when congressmen and women are concerned about our national security and don't even know the backdrop, the context, the framework within which this deal is being made, people are should be in an uproar. And Jeff Sessions has an obligation to undo this non-disclosure agreement, which is absurd. I've never heard of it. And it goes to the consciousness of guilt of Eric Holder and Rod Rosenstein and the whole lot of them to prevent this American businessman from talking.
Jeanine, I can't let that go, only because I have to say that it is not for me to say what the Attorney General should or should not do on any matter. But I will tell you, working with the Department of Justice on you're not saying it for me, you're saying it for you, but the Department of Justice is doing many different things right now that I think should capture America's attention, that don't get the coverage they deserve. I mean, the border crossings are way down. Just this week, the Deputy Attorney General held a press conference with the acting DEA
That's their job,
director.
Kellyanne.
Well,
we
but
got
hold
10
on.
seconds.
Hold on. Largest fentanyl crackdown in this country. Got to get the drugs. Got to get the drugs out of our communities.
From them. Got to go, Kellyanne. Thanks. All right. Rich Little's still ahead, but next, we've heard from former president. Next, the current president of the United States has a message for the crowd, deep from the heart. Hurricane relief concert. Stay with us. Lady Gaga on now with the concert for hurricane relief in Texas. President Trump addressed the crowd earlier via videotape. Take a look.
My fellow Americans, the heartbreaking devastation caused by Hurricanes Harvey and Irma and Maria and Nate, along with the terrible wildfires in California, have impacted millions of our fellow Americans. As a nation, we mourn for those who died, and we pray for those who lost their homes or their livelihoods. In the aftermath of these terrible storms, the American people have done what we do best. We came together, we helped one another, and through it all, we remained resilient. We came together as one as we rushed to the aid of Texas, Louisiana, Florida, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, as we begin to rebuild, some of America's finest public servants are spearheading the One America appeal. Through this effort, all 5 living former presidents are playing a tremendous role in helping our fellow citizens recover. To Presidents Jimmy Carter, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama, Melania and I want to express our deep gratitude for your tremendous assistance. This wonderful effort reminds us that we truly are one nation, under God, all unified by our values and our devotion to one another. I also want to thank every person, including everyone here tonight, who has contributed to this vital effort. There is a lot of work ahead of us, and I want to thank groups like the Points of Light for making such a big difference in our disaster response efforts. Together, we will recover, we will rebuild, and we will come back stronger and better than ever before. Thank you, God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
Rich Little, master impersonator, joins me live next. Welcome back to Justice, live from L.A. My next guest is legendary impersonator and comedian who's done some unforgettable impressions. The man, the myth, the legend, Rich Little. Thanks so much for being here tonight. Now, look, first of all, I want to thank you, and I want to ask you some questions, all right? Because this is a political show. Now, President Clinton, what do you think of Harvey Weinstein?
I don't want to talk about Harvey Weinstein. I am still very upset that Hillary didn't become president. It would have been so great, you know, to see a woman in the Oval Office. Anyway, you know, I just got back from Macy's. I was at Macy's department store today. They've got a Harvey Weinstein sale there. Women's panties are half off.
What?
You know, I'll go slower.
Okay.
Okay. You know, they did a survey the other day. They asked a group of women if they would have sex with Bill Clinton. Do you know that 70% of these women said,
what?
Never again.
Never again? Okay, let's move on. President Reagan, do you think unemployment is better now than it was when you were president?
Well, yes. Thanks to Donald Trump, there is no unemployment today. That is just a silly rumor started by a bunch of people who are out of work. And unfortunately, the cost of living is still extremely high. Do you know the only way a family of 4 can survive today is to eat a family of 5? Do you know, Judge, that things are so bad right now in America that the mafia had to lay off 3 judges?
I was a judge. I take that personally.
And even some of the people in Beverly Hills are suffering.
Oh.
Do you know a lot of them had to fire their nannies and actually learn the names of their children?
Oh, that's sad.
Some of them are eating caviar helper. It's terrible.
All right.
But I'm optimistic about the future.
All right. Thank you, President Reagan. Now,
right.
President Nixon, do you like Donald Trump?
Who?
Oh, actually, yes, I do like Donald Trump because I can relate to Donald Trump. We're both hated by the press. The press hates us. And I can relate to that. You know, a lot of people hated me. When I was a little liar growing up in Whittier, California, even my parents didn't like me. They hated me, my parents. Do you know I was baptized in boiling water? I was abandoned by an orphanage. I wasn't even invited to my own wedding. My bride came with a date. But, no, nobody's like me. Nobody's like me. You know, Judge, I have here a list of Hillary Clinton's famous sayings. Perhaps you will enjoy. These are Hillary Clinton's famous sayings. First one, don't put off tomorrow what you can erase today. If at first you don't succeed, lie again. I like that one.
Oh, I like that
How
too.
about this one? You can lead a man to Congress, but you can't make him think.
Oh, that's good. All right,
That's a good one.
lastly.
That's a good one.
All right,
It's not
President
whether
Trump.
you win or lose that counts, but where you place the blame.
All right, now listen, President Trump, how do you feel about Hillary?
We are going to build a wall, a great wall around Hillary. I think that Hillary's put on a little weight. It's the money belt, the Saudi money belt.
Okay.
I propose.
I got it. We got to go. People I've known and been little by little. By Rich Little. Rich Little, thanks so
And
much
I'm
for
at the
being with us.
Tropicana, you know.
At the Tropicana.
5 nights a week.
5 nights a week.
Still performing.
All right, we'll be right back.
Love you.
Remember to friend me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Judge_Jeanine and to DVR the show. That's it for us tonight from LA. Thanks for watching. Now, I'm going to be a special guest with Steve Hilton tomorrow night at 9. Greg Gutfeld is next. See you tomorrow. That's 9 Eastern time, 6 LA time, so I can have dinner afterwards in Los Angeles with my friends. Whereas I have to stop now.